Imagine this. You are standing on the edge of a massive breakthrough, but your chest is tightening. Your heart is racing, your palms are sweating, and your brain is screaming at you to run, hide, or lash out. We have been conditioned to believe that this moment of intense stress is a sign of weakness. We are told to push through it or grind harder, but that traditional approach is a lie, and it is costing you everything. When you try to fight your body's natural survival response with brute force, you aren't winning. You are locking yourself in a cage with the panic. The high performers and legendary leaders we admire don't live stress-free lives. They just understand a fundamental truth that most of us miss. You cannot think your way out of a physiological hijack. You have to change your chemistry first. If you do not learn how to control your nervous system right now, you aren't just losing your peace of mind. You are sacrificing your decision-making, draining your health, and letting your ancient survival software dictate your future. The game changes the exact second you stop fighting the pressure and start regulating your biology. Men have been taught for generations that the only acceptable response to immense pressure is to dig their heels in and grind harder. When the world demands more, the default masculine instinct is to put on the armor, suppress the anxiety, and rely on sheer willpower to push through the storm. But grit alone cannot rewrite the laws of human biology. By treating stress as an opponent you must physically conquer, you aren't actually solving the problem. You are just accelerating your own burnout. This traditional approach creates a dangerous illusion of control, while your internal system quietly fractures under the weight. True resilience begins the moment you stop confusing absolute rigidity with actual strength. We often glorify the man who suffers in silence, viewing his ability to absorb endless punishment as a badge of honor. Yet the harder you fight against a physiological hijack, using only raw discipline, the more fuel you feed to the underlying panic. This internal battle locks you into a defensive mindset, narrowing your vision and stripping away your capacity for strategic clarity. Real power isn't about surviving the cage of stress through brute force. It is about having the courage to change how you manage the system from within. Your biology dictates your leadership, but a single deliberate breath can completely override the entire system. When stress hits, a man's body is instantly flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, shifting his brain into a hyperreactive state where empathy, long-term vision, and strategic thinking completely vanish. Most men believe they can simply intellectualize their way out of this chemical hijack, forcing themselves to stay calm through raw focus. But you cannot reason with a panicked nervous system using thoughts alone. You must use a physical intervention to send a clear biological signal back to your brain that the immediate danger has passed. Controlled respiration acts as a manual kill switch for your body's evolutionary alarm bells. By executing a sharp, measured, 4-second pause, you instantly alter your internal chemistry, lowering your heart rate and stabilizing your blood pressure. Men often view pausing in a crisis as a sign of hesitation or weakness, but it is actually the ultimate tactical advantage. This brief physical reset immediately restores blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, bringing your critical thinking back online when the stakes are highest. Taking control of your chemistry allows you to respond to pressure with intent rather than reacting with primal panic. The primitive brain is incredibly brilliant at keeping us alive, but it cannot tell the difference between a charging predator and a difficult corporate boardroom meeting. For generations, men have tied their identity to an unyielding standard of absolute competence, authority, and control. When an external challenge threatens that status, the brain treats the blow to the ego exactly like a physical attack on survival. This psychological twist triggers a massive surge of defensive energy, forcing a man to push back blindly against the perceived threat. The problem isn't a lack of capability, it is that your biological hardware is treating a routine business problem as a matter of life or death. Protecting a fragile image of perfection is what keeps a leader trapped in a cycle of constant, exhausting reactivity. When a man feels his competence or authority is being questioned under pressure, the default masculine instinct is to become aggressive or to completely shut down. This happens because the ego hijacks the rational mind, tricking you into believing that admitting a mistake or pausing to breathe equals total defeat. The moment you realize that pressure is just a metric of importance rather than a threat to your worth, the dynamic changes entirely. Shifting from self-defense to genuine objective evaluation allows you to put down the armor and actually solve the problem. Living in a perpetual state of high alert inflicts a massive, silent tax that drains a man's capacity for deep connection and strategic clarity. For many men, the daily grind is viewed as a battleground where they must constantly prove their worth by absorbing endless stress without complaint. This silent accumulation of tension takes a heavy toll not just on your health, but on your ability to be present in the rooms that matter most. When your body is constantly marinating in cortisol, your vision narrows, your patience wears thin, and you begin treating the people you love and lead as obstacles rather than allies. Chronic survival mode fundamentally bankrupts the emotional equity required to build trust and inspire those around you. Men often believe they are successfully hiding their internal chaos behind a mask of stoic compliance. But the energy of a burnt-out leader is palpable to everyone in his orbit. This chemical overload dulls your intuition and replaces inspiration with sheer grinding exhaustion, leaving you running on empty while pretending the tank is full. By failing to regulate the internal pressure, you aren't just paying the tax yourself, you are passing the bill onto your team, your family, and your future. Great leaders don't seek to completely eliminate pressure. They lean directly into it because they understand it is the ultimate forcing function for growth. For generations, men have been conditioned to view any sign of internal anxiety as a threat to their competence, forcing them to waste immense energy trying to suppress the feeling. But the biological truth is that the physical sensation of anxiety, the racing heart, the surge of adrenaline, is identical to the sensation of intense excitement and peak readiness. The transformation occurs the moment a man stops trying to fight the surge and instead reframe it as his body preparing for battle. Pressure is not a sign that you are failing. It is an indicator that what you are doing actually matters. Reframing your physiological arousal changes the entire chemical equation of performance within the human body. When you shift your perspective from trying to survive a crisis to actively leveraging the energy it provides, your focus sharpens and your intent becomes clear. Men who master this mental shift stop playing defense and begin to see high-stakes moments as opportunities to demonstrate their deepest values. By flipping the switch and channeling that raw energy into tactical action, you fundamentally transform stress from a destructive force into the fuel that drives your purpose forward. True authority is never demanding, loud, or forced. It is felt the exact moment an anchored individual steps into a space of chaos. Men are frequently conditioned to believe that commanding a room requires a display of dominant energy, a booming voice, or an unyielding physical presence to assert their competence. Yet this aggressive posture is often just a frantic attempt to mask an internal storm of insecurity and pressure. The most influential men in any environment do not rely on theatrical displays of power to earn respect. Instead, they command attention through an undeniable inner stillness, a grounded, regulated presence that signals to everyone around them that the situation is entirely under control. A leader's regulated nervous system acts as an invisible sanctuary that naturally co-regulates the anxious energy of everyone else in the room. When a man has successfully mastered his internal chemistry and rewired his mind using a deliberate physical pause, his biology speaks volumes before he ever opens his mouth. People do not follow leaders because of their loud declarations or their rigid demands for compliance. They follow them because of how safe and certain they feel in that leader's presence. By projecting absolute calm under immense pressure, you project competence, shifting the room's dynamic from reactive panic to strategic focus. This quiet certainty is the ultimate competitive advantage, allowing you to establish trust, disarm conflict, and guide your team forward without ever needing to prove who is in charge.